tonight. Thanks very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody in between, give it up for Ron Hawkins again. Fabulous. That's amazing. I'll play that, so I might actually need this. My name is Weigand, and just here Stephen had asked me to come up and say a couple of words, so I'm going to say 4 words, well, maybe a few more. First and foremost, Al Cole. Give it up for Al Cole. All of us are here because of his amazing work and the shows that he did. And then we've got like Stephen Frank, and I've got 2 words to say about Stephen Frank, and that is Stephen Frank.
Will McGirt. Well, I can't thank you enough for coming out today. It's a special day to remember a really special guy. You know, he was a guy behind the scenes that a lot of people didn't know about. He had a lot of nicknames. They called him Mr. Cut and Paste, Rockin' Al Ontario. Lisa, what are some other names?
Al Rock City.
Al Rock City. Lisa Wally from the Velvet Elvis. She had a thing called the birthday piss out.
We're still recovering.
This show in the other room is called Al Rock City in memory of those great times. Al worked with people like Lisa and Catch-22, Mike and Tanya and the gang there, and he also worked with the Purple Onion and Kerry King's Moon Room and Eclipse. Of course, the Star Club. We've got people from the Star Club here that remember that Al, he worked for the school board, and he would come to Star Records on his lunch break, and he would play the American imports that Mike had. Those were the bands that weren't known yet, and Al would say, "This band's cool, you should get them for the Star Club." And then Mike would hear a song that he liked, and he'd go, "Okay." He'd pick up the phone, call the Horseshoe Tavern, let the Horseshoe Tavern do all the work to get the bands over the border, giving the Horseshoe Tavern, or Lee's Palace, or the Silver Dollar, the leverage of having 2 shows. So many American bands would never have played Canada if it wasn't for Al Cole, because we'd say, "I want to see this band." And just like guys like Gary Top, they did it for themselves, but we all benefited. They wanted to see those bands. Al loved music like nobody, and we're all here because we love music. The bands from New York or Pittsburgh, like the Cynics or the Liars, bands on Star Records, they would then map out tours that would take them to Detroit, with stops in London in between, where Al and I both did radio at CHRW at Western, and Al would promote the Cedar Lounge, the original punk scene, Fry Fogels. They were getting bands directly from the Garys and the Alma Combo and all that, and those bands would go to Detroit, do tours that would go to Cleveland, Chicago, who knows where. And if they went from Toronto at the Horseshoe on a Friday night, they came to the Star Club on a Saturday, they would then go to Kingston, Ottawa, or Montreal, down through Vermont or wherever, we don't know. But before the internet, we can't check this stuff out, but Al was responsible for more rock and roll in Ontario than just about anybody. And today, I think you can see on the walls, that is just the 905 chapter of the book, Young, Fast, and Scientific, the DIY World of Al Cole. It's been an amazing journey working on this. The first edition sold out at the tribute we did at the Biltmore 3 or 4 years ago, and I've been working on it nonstop. My apologies to Susan and Madeline for putting up with me on this ride. It's been amazing. I've had a lot of help. Guys like Will McGurk, Lisa Wally, Brian Lambert that wrote the London Underground book, the station manager from CBC, from CHRW that worked for CBC 30 years in Nagle that wrote a chapter, Patrick Nagle. We have Steve Kane, who was originally from Oshawa. He became president of Warner Music. He tells a story in the book where both him and Al were trying to get jobs at Star Records. He was working at Max Milk or Becker's or something, and he must have been so pissed off he didn't get the job at Star Records. He ended up becoming president of Warner Music. And then was free. A lot of the guys from Oshawa, like Steve and Craig Laskey that booked the bands at the Horseshoe Tavern, Lou Molinaro that ran This Ain't Hollywood, which is named after a Forgotten Rebels album, which was on Star Records. These Oshawa guys were making the scene happen throughout Ontario. Guys like Charlie Angus have been here lately, and they credit Oshawa for a lot of good things that have happened for the labor movement. Here we are in a union building. I think Ron's played in a few maybe, I don't know. But, you know, we just want to thank everyone that's helped with this book and helped me. And I want to thank Nick and Antonella for allowing us to do this in this amazing space at the Bond Street Event Center here. Thank you. Enjoy the book. It has been just a privilege to work on it, and I thank Dana, his wife, for trusting me with the material. And you know, like she basically said, here it is in a laundry basket, and don't ask any questions. And so I had to figure it out myself. I'm not known as a person in the music world, more so in the art world, but I did experience what happened in London, Ontario with Al back in the early 80s. It was a special place, and of course we all know that places like Toronto and Vancouver and New York and LA and the media centers get all the attention. Oshawa gets all the negative attention, but I think Oshawa punches way above its weight when it comes to music. I grew up in Bowmanville. I've traveled a bit, but I've never become jaded. I'm still a guy from Bowmanville that looked at the Star Clubs in Oshawa as the place to be, because when Mike Starr at Star Records and Al, when they did decide which one of those bands were going to come up, whether they were Charlie Pickett and the Eggs or Evan Johns and the H-Bombs, when my brother Alan and I would come over to Oshawa into that little orange hall. And I know Ron remembers the Hungarian Hall and all these halls. So thank you, Fiesta, for showing us all the stages in Oshawa. You'd be sitting there eating a cabbage roll going, oh my God, look at the mosh pit in front of the stage. And I remember seeing Lowest of the Low at the Hungarian Hall, and I just, you know, avoided Doc Martens in the head all night. It was an amazing thing. So you just know that the next day there's some old Hungarian man that walked in and we went, okay, it's still standing, but the floors are really sticky. And you know, I think that Al understood that, and he started a zine called What Wave in Oshawa, which went on to be a big part of the Canadian music scene. Og Records were in it quite often from Montreal. There was a record I just saw here that was put out by Dave O'Halloran and his wife Rena. They took over Al's zine What Wave, and they put out records like Mr. Garager's Neighborhood, and you know, he was, Dave wrote in the book too, and he says this got a lot of airplay in Greece for some reason. The What Wave scene that came out of Al's mind, and Dave and Rena took over. It still exists. Dave runs a radio show at CHRW called Radio What Wave. So Al is still with us in many ways, and let's have a toast to Al Cole. And may you enjoy discovering everything that he did that rocked the 519, the 416, and the 905. And speaking of the 905, we have some video that we're going to play with whatever time we have left. I mentioned that Al was part of the Star Club scene, putting on these shows. We have some video from the Mike Starr tribute that we did 9 years ago. It's already 10 years since Mike passed, and we did this tribute show 9 years ago. We have some little videos, so there's a little theater we've created on stage, and if there's not room on there, you can still see it from the floor. And I gotta thank Chris Wunderlich and different people that have helped with the technical issues. And thank you, Chris Wunderlich from Wonderlit magazine. Let's hear it for the Bond Street Event Center. Ron Hawkins of Lowest, Will McGirt, and everyone that's helped with the book. Thank you very much for coming, everyone.